Hi, it's Mr. Aguilar. Welcome to part two of this video on Illustrator with the focus on creating badges. The goal of this is to teach a couple of easy techniques in Illustrator and something simple like creating a badge, and then being able to apply those skills to more complex illustrations. So what I have here is what we created in the first video, and these are the base badges. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new document. So I'm going to hit Control N for new. And my document is going to be 500 points by 500 points. I'm going to click Create. Now, my grid should still be the same. And if you hit Control and the quotation mark, you'll get your grid. But it should still be the same from the last one. But we can go to Edit, Preferences, Guides and Grids. And what we want is 50 points with 10 subdivisions. This gives us a nice even grid. Anytime you're working in Illustrator, what you'd like to do is create a nice easy grid that you can use for creating illustration, and that is easy to divide with base numbers. So like 50, 25, 10s, 5s, really easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this badge shape that we made in the previous video. I've also taken some colors up here. So I'm going to grab the badge and I'm going to hit Control C for copy. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hit Control V. It should center. If it doesn't center, you can go Object, Group, and then we could center horizontally and center vertically, which it already is. And then we can ungroup. So I have my layers over here. So let's get into layers. And this is our first layer. This is going to be our badge layer. I'm going to create another layer for color. And this is where I'm going to move my color swatches to. And this will be the badge. I believe labeling and organization is extremely important. And when you open this up, you can see the three shapes that make this badge. So let's go get those color swatches that I already made. I'm going to grab those, Control C. I'm going to come over here, Control V. I will briefly go over how to get custom colors, either based off your source image that you're going to use as a reference, or just off a general color palette that you like, that you would want to use for your illustration. So I'm going to start creating a couple of layers. So the layers I'm going to make, I'm going to have an illustration layer. And this is where I'm going to make my graphics. You can call it a graphic layer too. I'm going to have my text layer. And then I'm going to have one more layer for my photo reference. So I'm just going to put photo. Okay. So the next thing to do is to grab a photo. I'm going to include a link to the photo. And I might also give a link to this file if you guys want to use it, but definitely the photograph. So I'm going to go to my documents. I'm going to go to my badge and stickers. I have these photos for Lagoon Valley. These are just down the street from the high school in which I teach, and I went and took the photographs. So I'm going to grab the one that I use for my demo, which is this one, and just drag it over here. And I'm going to make sure I put it into the photo layer. So it is in the photo layer. I have it here. And one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go over our transparencies. Now I'm going to undock this whole panel. And the reason I'm going to undock it is because I'm going to be going back and forth to the transparency tool or the transparency panel, which is right up here. And it just works easier and more efficient. So I'm going to go over here with the selected. I'm going to go to opacity. And I'm just going to knock it down to about 50%. It could be a little bit more. That's fine. And after I do that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to resize this. And when I resize this, I'm going to do it by holding Shift and Alt. And that's going to constrain it to the center. And again, you don't have to worry about this covering the whole badge, just the parts that you want. And I'm going to raise this up. My text is going to go down here, so I want this to be higher. And again, I'm going to simplify this. I'm not going to make it extremely detailed. It's going to be a badge. It's going to be small. You don't want to have too many details in here. and want to keep it fairly simple. So I'm just going to lock this. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our pen tool to create our illustrations. Now, one thing you want to do, so right over here, we want to make sure that we have our color set to stroke. So we want to have no fill color, just a stroke. And you can make that color any color you want. I'm going to select this. And when you see that, it's going to go back to that fill color, and I'm just going to switch it by the toggle. And what I like to do is I like to change my color so it makes identifying what I'm drawing a little bit easier. And I'm going to go into here. I'll get into the color palette in just a little bit, but I want to get through this quickly. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to do this way faster than I normally would. So I'm going to start on the outside. So it's important we want to start on the outside of our illustration. We want to have excess. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to keep this rounded. Again, I just want the general shape. I would advise against doing too much, but you want to keep it organic as possible and just go ahead and follow the flow of the mountain. And I have a tree line here. I could do that tree line separate if I feel like it. But for this case, I'm just going to continue this down as if it's part of the mountain. And I'm going to come right here. And I'm going to come straight across. Now, I can just literally come straight across because I'm going to cover this bottom part. And in fact, I'm going to go a little bit lower than I want because this is all going to get covered up. So rather than try to perfectly align everything, if you know something's going to be in the background, you know something in the foreground is going to cover it up, just make that background a little bit bigger than necessary. So I have that shape. Just so I don't accidentally click on it, I'm going to lock it. So again, just go to your layer, click on the arrow button, and you can see the sub panels. And I'm just going to, or sub layers, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to lower that down. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to start creating my second little hill or mountain, whatever you want to call this. And I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to come down. It's important to remember to close your shapes. Okay, so we want to close our shapes. I want to keep that round. I don't want too many points. Now, if something appears too sharp, right, you can just go in and modify the handles. If you don't have your handles, because maybe you did it, just created a point by accident, you can come into your pen tool and go to your convert anchor, and that'll allow you just to do things like click on it. Now it's a point. If I click on it again and pull out, now I have my handles. So that's just your convert anchor tool. And while we're at it, we're going to go to the pen tool, and I'm going to undock the pen tool just for the ease of being able to select my pens. And then I have another mountain range right back here. So I'm going to come back into the distance, and I'm going to make that one. Now, I don't like what I did, so let me delete that. And I'm going to come right up here, and I'm going to come down again. Good. Like I said, you want a likeness. You don't need to make it perfect. And in fact, I'm just going to have it come down here. Again, I like to say one more time. Normally, I'd spend way more time making this look nice. But again, I'm just going through my different elements. Now I have to figure out what I want. So this ground over here in the background, I'm going to have that sit on top of the water. So what I'd like to do next is I'm going to just pick a nice light blue. And I'm going to make my water. And then I'm going to put this ground on top of the water. So this is all about layering. So I'm going to come in here and start indicating the water. I'm going to make the water a little bit higher than I want because I'm going to put that landmass in front of it. And then anytime you don't like something, just Control Z. And if you get confused, just turn some of the stuff off so you can see it. And I'm just going to have this go all the way across. I'm going to come through here, and I'm just going to come around and have that just come right under here. So again, it's not that important because this is all going to be hidden. And real fast, lock this badge. Now, the next thing I want to do, and again, I'm going to lock this off so I don't have to see it. I'm just going to pick a green. Doesn't matter what color of green. And I'm going to start doing this landscape right back here. So it's coming right through here and across. So I'm just going to come in, start from the outside. And again, if you want to do something where like you're showing parts of the tree line, you could do that separately. For the sake of the video, I am moving through this rapidly. So I'm going to come over here to this one. And I want to keep my curves down a lot. So let's go a little bit lower on here. And again, if you don't like something, just Control Z and undo it. And sometimes when the grid locks into place, you just kind of need to zoom in. So that's all I did. That's why I zoomed in. Now I can zoom back out. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to do this bottom part. So I'm going to come in here. And again, I can't say this again. If you don't like something, just undo it, Control Z. And there's a couple of different options that you guys can do with this. You can make this a solid fill, or you can create a gradient. It's really up to you. Now, here's the thing. I want to go below the badge. So I'm intentionally making this big. I'm holding the Shift key down. I'm going to hold that Shift key down. And Illustrator is really nice, especially if you're using the grid. It's going to help you lock into your shapes and make things real nice and easy. So let's bring in all our other shapes. And this is where you're going to start juggling things around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flipping all these. So right now there's strokes. I'm going to make that into a solid fill. Here is my water. I want my water to be behind this ground here. And I'm just going to give that a nice blue. Again, I can change this blue at any point. And then always make sure you are working with whatever you need in front. So I don't need the strokes anymore. So I want to make sure that my solid fill comes in. I'm going to do my land, toggle that. So that is in front of the water. That is also on top of the water because here's my water. So I want to make sure that the water is below my 3 land masses. I want to make sure that these 2 pieces right here are above my mountains. I want to make sure that this one is in the very back. So I'm going to drop this one all the way to the bottom. And then I want this one to be next to the bottom because remember, we're layering. So we're stacking these. And then I want this one right there to be above. And what I'm going to do, I can either use these colors, which I already did for this one, but I need these colors to be darker. So here's the nice thing. One, I can darken the value here, and this is my CMYK panel. I can also go in here and go to my HSB. So that's hue, saturation, and balance, and black, I'm sorry. And what I can do is I can add just a little bit of black. And then I can take this one. I'm going to add a little bit less. So I'm just trying to darken that one in. And I want to leave this one in the background to be lightest. So I'm just going to take this down just a little bit. Right, so I want some nice variation and contrast. Then I'm going to have my sky. For my sky, I created this gradient here. And in order to get my sky, I'm going to go back into my badge and I'm going to select the middle piece. And one thing I know I forgot to do is I just realized my colors need to go into my color layer. So again, really important, keep things separate in layers. I want to keep this as straightforward as possible. So I'm going to click on this. That is that background. And then I'm going to click on this color. And you're going to see that I have the color now. You're saying you can't see the color. Well, you can't see the color because I got the picture in front of it. I'm going to go to my gradient tool, or G. I also have a gradient panel. Okay, so you have the gradient tool and the gradient panel. You can see that this is going horizontal. I need it to go vertical. And once you have it, you can control how much of that lighter blue versus darker blue that you want. So I'm just going to have that down here. Let me raise it up just a little bit. A lot of control in Illustrator. Gradients, again, are something you should really play with. And I obviously don't want this green. So I have this nice dark green up here. And I'm going to go around and select this one and get that dark green. And then I have the front, and I want that to be the dark green too. So I have the same greens. Again, if you don't like the green, you don't like the colors you get, you can change them up. Let's go into our colors. I'm going to go back into the CMYK. And I want a little bit more cayenne maybe in that green. So I'm going to come down here and click on this. And I just want a little bit more cayenne in there because it's going to make it a little bit greener. And then I'm going to do the same thing with those. I'm just going to use my eyedropper and click. Use my eyedropper and click. And I'm going to use a little atmospheric effects. That is how our vision and light interacts with the atmosphere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this slightly lighter than this. So I want this to be my darkest value, and I want these to be lighter. So I'm going to go back into my HSB. I'm going to make this slightly darker. And then I'm going to take these, I'm going to make these slightly lighter. So I'm just taking away the black. You can also take away the saturation. And I want these to be relatively the same color. Okay. So I like the way that looks. That's nice. But now you're probably saying, well, it's covering up everything. And that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a new feature that we haven't done before. And we're going to be using our transparency panel, and we're going to be working in masks. Masks work the same way in Illustrator as they do in Photoshop, just a different way to apply them. So what I want to do is I want to select my background shape. I'm going to hit Control-C for copy. I'm going to go into my transparency level. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to go into my illustration, and I'm going to start with this one at the very top. There it is. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click Make Mask, and it's going to put black fill there. Now, please remember, black hides, white reveals. Now, Control V is paste, but it'll paste it somewhere, but not exactly where I want it to be. If I hit Control F in Illustrator, that's placed in front, but you can see what happened to that green. It's kind of funky. Remember, white reveals, and we just pasted a gradient. So what we're going to do, if that's selected, I'm going to go into my colors, and I'm simply going to pick white, and you're going to see how that comes through. Now, here's the important part. I want to hit Control-C again. I want to copy the white shape. I'm going to go back in. Now, look at my layers. I'm going to go back into the illustration part, and you'll see all my layers pop back up. I'm going to unlink this. This is important, and I'll get to it in a minute. So I'm going to unlink it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down through my layers, make a mask, click on the mask, Control F to paste in front, click back into my illustration, and take off this link. And we're just going to keep doing that. So I'm going to go to the next part. I'm going to go make mask. I'm going to click in my mask. You can see that new border. Control F, paste in front. Go back to my illustration. Again, you'll see the layers. Unclick the link. And then I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down. Select, Control F, select illustration, unlink it, go to the next one, make mask, click in mask, Control F, paste in front, click in illustration, take off the link. I'd actually suggest that you talk your way through it because one, it'll help you remember. Two, it'll prevent you from making mistakes. I don't need to mask this one because it's tiny and it's contained. I only need it to mask the stuff going off. Now, I said you want to unlink this. The reason you want to unlink this, when these are linked, the mask will follow the image as you move it. However, let's say we wanted to move our whole illustration up, right? But the mask is going to go up. So now it's not going to match our badge, or think of this as a window. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make the mask stay in place. And then that's our window, right? And we can just move this anywhere we want. So imagine this is my window and this is the illustration. If I don't move the mask, I can move this behind the mask, right? And nothing's going to change. But if I do this, okay, you're just going to start revealing other parts right here. So it's important to unlink it. So now I have my base illustration. I have my sky. I have my mountains. One thing I want to add, and I'm going to add it at the very, very bottom because I want a sun. So I'm going to go into my shape tool. I want to clip on the ellipse. I'm going to press Shift and Alt. Again, that's going to give me a nice size. I'm going to go my color picker or my eyedropper. Click on that color that I want. Move this all the way to the back. Again, we're talking about layers. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock all of this. And I want to create a little bit of light going into the water here. Now remember, we're doing a graphic piece, so we need to keep this really, really simple. And so I'm just going to come in here, come in here. And again, I'm going to go a little bit so I go underneath, and I'm going to come right about to here probably. And then I'm just going to bring this up. Again, I want to curve. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I want to come really flat. And then as I move towards the back, I want this to be narrower. So I'm going to slowly bring this and get this in smaller. Now you could give yourself some guides if you wanted to. But again, I'm just trying to freelance this and try to make it as easy as possible. See, I don't like that one, so I need to come back in and do this. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier. And again, it doesn't matter if you go out, because this is going to go behind everything but on top of the water. Okay. So remember, we're always thinking in stacks and layers. So if I have this in front and I have this in back, it doesn't matter how big this is because it's going to be hidden. So now I created that little reflection. I have that sky. I have the sun. Again, you can do different things in the skies. You can put in clouds if you want. You want to keep it fairly simple. So I'm going to say this is my design. Now, since I'm using this color, I want to go back into my badge. And my badge is unlocked. I'm going to click on the background and I'm going to use my eyedropper and I'm going to make that the same green. If you like this gray, you can, but what I'm going to do is go into the gray and I'm going to get the color of the sun. Again, I know these colors work. Color theory. You could also look at sports. Sports use a lot of color theory. So you'll see teams like the Oakland A's. They're this color of yellow and green. Same thing with the Green Bay Packers. You'll see it in college sports and high school sports. So you don't have to come up with a lot of this from scratch. You can look at nature. Now, we talked about color schemes. So really quickly, how do you get the color scheme that you want? Well, you have Adobe Color, but you also have this other website called Coolors. That's COOLORS .co. And the nice thing about it is it has this explore feature, and you can go and find colors that are already been generated. You can go generate random colors. And all you have to do is hit the space bar and it'll give you those random colors. Here's a nice thing. You don't like a particular shade of the color, you could go in and change it, right? So it's really nice for this. If you need to make something a little bit more dynamic and bright, or you may need to make something a little bit more desaturated. Here's the other nice thing. I'm going to go back into, I'm going to go to the camera, I'm sorry. And I can take that photo that we used and I can grab that photo and drop it right in there. And I did not drop it in there. So let me try that again. And let me make this window a little bit smaller. And there's Adobe. All right, so let's just pop that right in there. And you can see, so I can take this color, right? And I can just hover over something and that will be a color. I'll go to the next one. I can come in, find that green, take the next one. I can come in and get some of that sky, take the next one. And again, just find another color, maybe that color, come into this last one and maybe get some of that brighter color in there. And that's how you can generate some of these colors. The other thing is I'm going to go next and you can go save palette. You can also go explore palette. So if you go explore, there's two things that I really want to show you. One, you can explore it as a PDF, or you can export it as an ASE. Now the ASE saves this as a color book. So when you go into Illustrator, you can open up these colors. So you don't have to load them up. If you save it as a PDF, the nice thing about the PDF is it will save it plus all the variations of it. And if you look at this, you have your hex codes, and your hex codes are something that you can copy and paste in any pretty much digital program for making graphics or designs like Photoshop, Illustrator, or any of the other programs that are out there, and it'll give you that exact color. So I believe that I already did this. So if I go in here and show you, you'll see that I have a bright contrast already set up. Here is the PDF that I saved. And this is the cool thing. I'll let this open up. So here's those colors that I saved from when I originally did this. And here are my hex codes. Again, all you have to do is double click on them. Okay, and you can just copy and paste them. Here's the other nice thing. I come in here, I have all my variations. And I can just click on these and I could copy them. So that's the great thing. So if I need this variation of this blue, I can go in there, hit Control C, go into Illustrator, Let's get another color. I'll come over here, double click on the color, and then you'll see where the hex code goes. Hit Control V, click OK, and I will have my new color. Easy as that. Really, really simple. It's a great way to get your colors. The other thing you can do, so if I want to open those colors that I have, I can go into my swatches. I can go into the hamburger over here. I can go open Swatch Library, and I'm going to go other library. Then all I have to do is tell it where I saved it. So I saved it. Let's get out of here. I saved it in my passport. This is in my art school teaching folder. Go to my digital media, go to Illustrator tutorials, and we're doing the badge. And I just need to find my ASE. There it is. Click open. And there are my colors that I had saved earlier. Really, really easy to bring those colors in. It's pretty cool. I wish I had this program or that options in the program years ago. So that's how you can get your colors. The next thing we want to do is we want to add text. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my layers, which I undocked. And I'm going to go to my text. I'm going to lock some of this other stuff up so I don't mess with it. And in my text, this is Lagoon Valley. So I'm just going to type in Lagoon. Just going to put that right over here. And I'm going to type in Valley. Now, capital L's don't really work that nice. So I'm going to go regular L's. Everything else is going to be capitalized. And I have my text, right? So let's put that there. Let's put that there. I want to use the same color as that sun and the water reflection. And then I want to make that bigger. So let's just go down 36 real fast. And again, right now, I'm just laying stuff out. I'm not really concerned about the font. I don't want that there. I want this a little higher. I want that to be bigger. Okay, so that's nice. And what I can do is I can click both of these and I can center them. That's fantastic. All right, so what I want to do is I want to find my fonts. Now, I don't want to waste your time. You can go into your character. If you don't have this open right here, you just go to Window, Type, and Character, and you'll have your character window. I like using the character window more than using it from up here in your top menu, simply because it doesn't get in the way. So if I click on this and now I have my text, you can see where I have all of these different fonts. Now, I've already picked Berlin, so I'm going to go with the Berlin Sans, and you can see that. Then I'm going to take this Valley, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come in here, get that Berlin Sans bold. Now, these two should be centered, okay? But you can see they're not centered in this image. One thing is my graphics already in the center. That's what we did in the beginning. So I can take this and I can simply center it. Come in here and simply center it, and now they're both centered. This is why it's important to really set up your document the first time correctly. It's also why you want to start aligning everything to the center of your artboard. It just makes your life easier. And the other thing I could have done is I could have made my text in the middle, and that would have also made my adjustments a little bit easier. But again, because I set it up correctly, it's real easy to change things around. So here I have Lagoon Valley, really nice, not too complex. Let me zoom out. There's more stuff that you can do. There's different things you can do with the text. There's different things you can do with the border, but we don't have that time right now, and I really don't want to waste that time. So I'm going to leave it like this. This is the end of the video. Hopefully you learned a few things. The big thing I want you to get out of the video is using your transparency layer and using your masks. So let me unlock this. Let me just go into one of the things that we masked off. So again, if I click on this and it's locked, if I click on it, there's my shape. You can see the mask. It's blocking it out. There's what the shape really is, but you don't see it because it's masked off. So that's one of the really big features, is using the transparency tool and using the mask. The same thing is if you're using a photo as a reference, you want to be able to make that photo semi-transparent. So by clicking on it, again, I can click on that photo, and when I have my opacity, that photo is at 50%. Okay, so it's really important that you understand that. So when you have this, right now, this one's at 31%. And then I'm going to turn this off. So hopefully that works out. It's pretty easy to understand, pretty easy to make badges. If you like the tutorial, please give me a thumbs up, and have fun creating and looking at new things. My big suggestion is finding things or places that you might want to visit and finding some good photographs on the internet, and then using that as your reference to create some of these landscapes. Again, don't try to go too complicated. Make them simple. Again, these are supposed to be little badges. And then as you get more and more comfortable using the software, you can work on making more advanced illustrations. So till next time, this is Mr. Aguilar, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.